You probably heard India called the pharmacy of the world, right? It's known for making affordable, essential medicines for everyone. But what if I told you a quiet, massive revolution is happening right now? India is making a huge bet to pivot from that role and lead the next wave of medical innovation. Let's break down exactly how they're planning to do it.
So, it all starts with a number, a really big number, 10,000 crores. That's well over $1 billion. And when you see a number that big, you have to stop and ask, what on earth is that for?
Well, that right there, that's the price tag for an absolutely monumental bet. It's the cash India's putting on the table to completely transform its pharmaceutical industry and grab a top spot in the future of medicine.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the big bet itself. Then, we need to define what this future of medicine actually is. We'll explore the core ambition to shift from volume to value, see the ecosystem that's been built up over years, meet some of the innovators making it happen, and finally, get to grips with Shakti, the final push that's meant to tie it all together.
So let's dive right in and unpack that big bet. At the very heart of this whole strategy is a brand new government program called the Biopharma SHAKTI initiative.
So this was just announced in the latest union budget. It's a 5-year, 10,000 crore mission. Now, its main goal is to seriously bulk up India's ecosystem for creating and making something called biologics. These are really complex drugs made from living things, and their copies, called biosimilars. The whole point is to make these high-value medicines right at home so we're less dependent on imports and can really compete on the world stage.
Okay, so I've said biopharma and biologics a few times now, and that begs a really important question before we go any further. What exactly is biopharma?
You know, in the simplest terms, think of it like this. Traditional drugs like aspirin are made through chemical reactions. It's pure chemistry. But biopharmaceuticals, they're created using living systems. We're talking about using cells, bacteria, or yeast as tiny, microscopic factories to produce these incredibly complex and targeted medicines. It's harnessing biology itself.
And here's the thing, you're actually way more familiar with biopharma products than you probably realize. We're talking about pretty much all modern vaccines, the latest forms of insulin for diabetes, amazing cutting-edge gene therapies, and those targeted antibody treatments for things like cancer. This stuff is the front line of modern medicine.
And understanding, that brings us right to the core of why this multi-billion-dollar push is even happening. It's all about a fundamental strategic shift from just making a lot of medicine to making the most valuable medicine.
And this chart, wow, this tells the whole story perfectly. Look, by sheer volume, we're talking the number of pills and vials it produces, India is a global giant, number 3 in the world. But, and this is the big but, when you look at the actual monetary value of all that medicine, India drops all the way down to 11th place. That gap, that is what this is all about. Biopharma is seen as the key to closing that gap.
And the government has put a very specific number on this ambition. The goal is to capture 5% of the entire global biopharma market. Now, you might hear 5% and think, that doesn't sound like a lot. But you have to remember, this is a global industry worth well over $1 trillion. So believe me, a 5% slice of that pie is an absolutely enormous economic prize.
But here's a really crucial point. This massive ambition, this Shakti initiative, it didn't just appear out of thin air. It's actually the grand finale of more than a decade of careful planning and laying the groundwork policy by policy.
You can actually see the momentum building over time. It really kicked off back in 2017 with the National Biopharma Mission. Then in 2023, another piece was added with the PRIPS scheme to boost research. 2024 was a huge year, with even more support coming from the Bio-E3 policy and the Bio-RID scheme. Each step was like laying another brick in the foundation, all leading up to this powerful next phase with Shakti.
So the main thing to get here is that these weren't just a bunch of random announcements. Every single one was a deliberate building block put in place to create the infrastructure, fund the research, and really foster the innovative culture you need for a world-class biopharma industry. And this is where the story gets really cool. Because this ecosystem isn't just some abstract idea on a policy paper. It's already empowering real innovators to create some absolutely incredible, life-changing technologies. Let me show you a couple of examples.
So, meet Arjun Arunachalam. His startup, Voxel Grids, developed India's first ever completely homegrown MRI scanner. And get this, it performs on par with the big global brands, but it costs just a fraction of the price. This makes advanced diagnostics so much more accessible. And how they pull it off? With a crucial 12.4 crore grant from BRAC, which is a key partner of that national biopharma mission we just talked about.
Or take a look at Dr. Cyriac Mbiaz. He developed a biosimilar drug for type 2 diabetes. The impact here is just staggering. It's sold for nearly 1/3 of the price of the imported version. And that was only possible because the National Biopharma Mission stepped in and covered a whopping 85% of his super expensive clinical trial costs. This is policy directly translating into affordable medicine for millions.
And you can just feel the confidence from the people leading this charge. As Dr. Raj K. Shrumala, who directs the National Biopharma Mission, puts it, India has the capability and the will to make a mark in the $1.1 trillion global pharma industry. The groundwork is there, and the belief is definitely there.
So this brings us full circle, right back to the Biopharma SHAKTI initiative. If the last decade was all about building the individual parts of a high-performance engine, then SHAKTI is the plan to finally assemble everything, turn the key, and hit the accelerator.
It's a really smart four-pronged attack. So first, it's doubling down on homegrown development and manufacturing. Second, it's all about the people, the brains, by building new elite pharma institutes and upgrading the ones we already have. Third, it's creating a massive network of over 1,000 accredited clinical trial sites across the country to speed up testing. And finally, it's beefing up the national regulatory body so it's aligned with global standards, which is key for building trust and opening up export markets.
So you see, SHAKTI isn't just another policy to add to the pile. It's the master framework. It's the glue designed to connect the research, the talent, the manufacturing, the trials, and the regulation, all into one cohesive national effort.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? With this kind of strategic focus, with this much investment, is the world's pharmacy about to become the world's lab? Could the next revolutionary, life-saving medicine actually have a Made in India label on it? Only time will tell, but it's going to be exciting to watch.